Waiting to be alive. Regular council meeting, Thursday, October the 5th, 2023. I'd like to acknowledge that we're holding this on the traditional lands of the Clallam Nation. I'm going to move to item 1, which is the opening of the council meeting announcements. And I understand that Julie Benselar is here with us today. And I would like to ask Councillor Almeida.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I'm privileged to introduce today as just a special recognition as council. We always like to recognize those that have represented our community well outside of our borders. And it's taken a few months to get this recognition going, but earlier in the spring at the Minor Hockey Association's year-end awards banquet, they recognized one of their hockey coaches who was nominated by the Hockey Association earlier in the year as a BC top coach. She ended up winning that award for BC, I believe it's Female Coach of the Year, if I'm not mistaken, yeah. And as a result of being the BC Coach of the Year, she was put into the running for the National Coach of the Year, which she ended up winning as well, and was flown out to Toronto to partake in some of the festivities at the Women's World Hockey Championships. And so it's taken a few months to bring her here, but as council, we are always excited to recognize someone who's done our community proud. And some of the girls from the program have come to support her as well. So I'd like to bring up Julie Benselar. We've got a pin from the city. Here's our pin for you, so come shake your hand. Welcome, congrats. And maybe we can get some of the team members to come on up. We can do a group photo.
City. Love it. Thank you. It's nice to see all your.
Yeah.
Shake your hand.
Oh, yeah.
So stand over here.
Hello, welcome.
Hi, guys. All ones in the back. You know how that is.
So all the way around.
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
And the mayor has to go there too.
Yeah.
Joanne.
I'll go to the back.
Get
in there. Dale, you come over here. Tall.
We might as well just keep it small.
Yeah, you go in the front, Audrey. Perfect. Okay, where are we looking? Paul first.
Yeah.
Real media there.
Well, oh, that looks great. Big smiles. I love it. Trying again and again. We'll let the others go ahead and take some pictures.
Oh.
Thanks, girls, for coming.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
You can all grow up to be coaches too.
Yes, hope so.
Thanks for coming out. Good to work. You're all good. Yeah, you're good. Go. Thanks for coming out, everyone. You're welcome to stay too.
Thank you so much. You're the emptying of our things. Here, I found something.
Coming. Yeah, she did.
Okay, now that the difficult part of the evening has been dealt with, we'll move to item 2, which is the adoption of the agenda.
Excuse me. I'm not sure if everybody got a chance to do their announcements quite yet, but
All right, Councillor.
I will pass the buck over. I am not prepared yet. So Councillor Elliott seems ready to announce.
I was just trying to follow the order of things. But if you'd like me to have something to say. So this week marks the opening of all of the curling leagues here in Powell River. All of the curling leagues would like more people than they have signed up already. Friday Night Fun League starts this Friday. People can drop in if they like or sign up for the entire league. The curling club, you might want to join, look at their website because they've had a lot of initiatives designed to try and teach people to curl and get people interested, that sort of thing. So I just wanted people to be aware.
Announcements, any other announcements? Yes.
Yes, Your Worship, I have a special announcement to make. Was fortunate to run into a citizen today, and that citizen said, make sure that you wish one of your members of council a happy birthday for me tonight. So tomorrow is Councillor Elliott's birthday, and I hope you'll all join me in singing happy birthday. So 1, 2, 3.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday,
Councillor Elliott. Happy birthday to you.
Thank
Your
you.
Worship, a special individual that I had the pleasure to meet today for the first time, none other than your father.
Oh. Blaming my brother, and here it was my father.
Any other announcements?
I have quite a few. I was hoping that others would have said a few and I could shorten my list. The Powell River Academy of Music, their concert series is kicking off next Friday, October 13th with a ukulele performance. They've got a number of fantastic concerts coming up from now until next June. Organ, a world-renowned organist, singers, violin, piano. They've also got some new lessons going on. Didgeridoo is now on offer. So just fantastic things going on with the Academy of Music. So check out the fantastic concert series coming up. The qathet Art Center has a fantastic, everything's fantastic right now, show called Go Fish, and it's only open for one more day this Saturday, I believe, 10 to 5. It's 3 huge screens all about the herring fishery, and so there's images, it's all video of commercial fishing, but seals and raptors and seagulls. Really creative use of the 3 screens, and everything's dark. It's very immersive. I highly recommend if you could sit front and center. It only lasts about 15 minutes and it rotates every 15 minutes. So you just come in and sit down anytime. And so the qathet Art Center is above the library, and Saturday's the last day for that. Townside Actors Guild has auditions coming up. If you want to perform in community theater, take a look at their Facebook page for audition dates. You don't have to prepare anything. You just show up and they give you some stuff to read. So very low bar. Everyone welcome to audition. I think they're looking for actors ages 20 to 70, but don't Yeah, check it out yourself to confirm that. Qathet Community Justice has some volunteer intakes, both for youth and adults coming up. And so you'll take training where you learn about theory and practice of restorative justice, victim-centered and trauma-informed practices, and how to facilitate peacemaking circles for justice and conflict cases, and community building dialogue. So fantastic skills to have. Would highly recommend if you want to get involved in our community. Councillor Elliott mentioned the fentanyl forum coming up October 23rd, 6 to 8 p.m. at Evergreen. She mentioned that on Tuesday. Registration is not required, but it helps with planning. And this is for anyone who either knows a lot about the drug poisoning crisis or has a lot of questions and it's more new. So everyone is welcome. They're going to have a lot of people with professional and experienced roles in the audience to answer questions, even beyond the great people that they have on the panel. Salmon Education Expo coming up October 21st at Lane Creek. Qathet Art Center also has a call for artists, open call for anyone in the community to participate in an upcoming group exhibition called Present. And that could mean being present at a meeting. It could mean giving a gift of a present, any interpretation, or the present time, any interpretation of the word present. So the art drop-off is happening in a couple weeks in October. And for youth coming up, there are a couple of sexual health and relationship workshops that are public, offered through BCH, but by youth, for youth, evidence-based and consent-based, free at the library, teens 17 to 19, that's coming up Thursday, October 19th from 4 to 6. And also Qathet Museum and Archives has a really busy fall coming up, including some spooky walks, which apparently are already very popular, and some youth programming. So another hopping organization with a lot of interesting activities going on this fall. And I know I missed some, but I don't know, lots popping up in my feed right now. Thank you, that's everything.
Yes, Councillor Anita.
And just a couple to wrap things up. Next Wednesday, the city and the chamber are working together for an event for the business community called the Business Networking Social, happening Wednesday, the 11th from 7 to 8:30 at the Art Community Center. Attendance is free. Some refreshments and snacks will be there as well. You can visit the PR Future site for more information. And then in 2 weeks from now, and it's a little while away, but we're not meeting before that, on Wednesday, October 18th, the city is hosting an event here in council chambers. It's an open house regarding manufactured homes, including modular and mobile homes. It'll take place from 4 to 6 p.m. here in council chambers. So you can get questions answered, learn about the community plan, and our planning staff will be here to handle all of that as well.
Sorry, Councillor, the date on that again?
October 18th, Wednesday, 4 to 6 p.m.
Thank you.
Great, I'd just like to add to what Councillor Isaacson said about the auditions. And on the website, it does say age 20 to 70. I did talk with Stephen Miller, and he said, if you happen to be over 70 and you would like to audition, please come out. And finally, the All River Kings, I would encourage everybody to look at the schedule and bring your friends, your children, and your grandchildren out. Games last Friday and Saturday were excellent, and they need our support. So now let us move to the adoption of the agenda.
I'd like to add one item to the agenda, and that is the motion that I'd like to make. Not one on the agenda. Get to that on the agenda, I'll read it.
Soka. Seconded. Thank you. All in favor? Passed. Thank you. To the adoption of minutes, we have 3.1, which is the minutes of the regular meeting held September the 14th, 2023. All in favor?
You adopted the
The added.
amendment.
The amendment. Thank you very much. All in favor? Thank you. I'll move to the adoption of the minutes. Item 3.1. Minutes of the regular council meeting held September 14, 2023. Yes, Councilor Isaacson. Thank you. Seconded. Any questions on the minutes? None. All in favor? Now to item 6, which is committee reports. 6.1 is committee of the whole meeting held August 15th, 2023. We have the minutes.
Normally whoever chaired that meeting describes the meeting, and so that was me who chaired it, but the main piece of business was to go into a closed meeting, and so no public decisions or discussion happened during that day.
Short but exciting.
Yeah, very exciting.
Oh, with the formality of the need to have a motion. Very much. Let's move to item 9, reports for information. 9.1, report from the Municipal Director of the qathet Regional District. Yes.
Just detailed report here tonight. So we had a meeting on the 27th of September. It was the board meeting, and interesting meeting. It went on for quite a long time. What to do from time to time. We heard from BC Transit, the 3-year transit expansion initiatives for the regional district. Planned expansion of an additional trip to Taxation Island each week was talked about, and that is in the plan. It's not going to happen in the next few days. 2024 they will take an additional trip to Taxation and improve service. The transit will be coming to a council meeting soon to talk to us about the city's transit. Chiefs Association of BC has sent a letter about grant funding for chiefs training, firemen's training for volunteers. Adopted the interim financial statements for the regional district up to June this year. That's the revenue anticipation borrow. City taxes every year. From one permissive tax exemption for the entire regional district, and that tax exemption is Royal Canadian Legion, taxation. There's a change to directors' remuneration bylaw number. So that amendment is what I'm talking about. It is it ends the bylaw so that if a person is found guilty of an infraction under the code of conduct, it can be docked pay. Until this happened, it was a matter of some discussion on the code of conduct discussions for the regional district, that there should be a penalty. There's some holding back of pay that's possible, and this change to the remuneration bylaw allows that to happen. Looking at changes to the financial assistance policy, which is the granting policy of the regional district, and the regional district has put up a process to look at how the grants are applied for, distributed, and how the money is raised from various electoral and the residents in the city who pay taxes. Regional district as well. Talked about our strategic planning progress report. We look at that about 4 times a year in the regional district. It is a community wood smoke reduction grant program. That moving. Fire smart update for 2023. That program going to protect us all from wildfires. Community evacuation planning update happened again. Resource Recovery Center status update. We got where staff went through all of the projects that are taking place and have to take place, including projects as the city is doing, to make the resource recovery center operational. One of the water connection in Alberni Street, actual resource recovery center news sites, and make sure there's sufficient water. Do the things they need to do. Some discussion between the board and LIFT Community Resource Center, Community Relations and Site Security, and communicated with them by letter. You may have seen an article about that in the paper. We wrote a letter about the acquisition of inland/Loon Lake Provincial Park to the Regional Park Service, and the motion there was that the board write a letter to the Ministry of the Environment and Climate Change Strategy regarding inland Loon Lake Provincial Park, expressing our concern with the disrepair of the park. Change our meeting schedule slightly. The big one of the day from, I think, city perspective, we passed the motion on C3 forum. Read the motion. Motion was that the qathet Regional District move forward and participate in C3 forums covering Section 89, Section 90 of the Community Charter, but respecting that the mechanics of Philaman law be invoked to go in camera. The other one we're talking about was a role of local governments in the agricultural land reserve exclusion application process. And that's a recent change to the Agricultural Land Commission, where it used to be the individual property owner had to make an application to the provincial government, move land from the ALR. Now the regional district has to be involved in that, setting fees and looking at how that could be offered. Yeah. Detail issues that came later, that's what I want to report on. It's a busy month. Gonna skip over, we had a regional hospital district board meeting as well the same day. We had Vancouver Coastal Health come. They talked to us about their funding.
We'll move to Councillor Elliott, Councillor Plum.
Question to the chair, just a question of or Director Dowd. Is, could you just elaborate for the people that may be tuning in the gallery, expand a little bit more on your resolution for 3C and what that means on a go-forward basis for the RD board members?
I think the motion means exactly what it says, is that the PRD will participate in C3 meetings under the rules of the community charter, observing section 89 and 90. And section 90 of the community charter is the rules for going into a public. And in addition to that, says that the regional district would participate, respecting the mechanics of Philaman law and be involved in going. What the definition of that is, not something that was put before the board, but the motion says so. I can say that the gist of the motion is that the regional district participate in C3 meetings. The
reason I asked the question is that the 3C meetings that have happened previously, the three parties were always open, and there was until recently the press were involved, and this change going in camera, that certainly changes the process of those meetings. So I'm sure it'll be coming to our table for further discussion, and we'll be dealing with this a little later.
I expect it might be coming to this table when being discussed at the regional district board. The statement was that all three CAOs, CAO of Philaman, City of Belleville, district had gotten together in July and agreed to bring forward to the bodies. Sure, the discussion will be ensuing at this table, and we will our decision, however.
Clearly.
Thank you. So Councillor Dowd has covered all of the items. One of the change to the ALR legislation indicates that regional district actually have to be the ones to put the application forward. We have to own it. And so the decision was to support the proponent and put that application forward. There was a lot of discussion around that. I encourage people to, if they're concerned, to listen to the meeting and hear what the discussion ensued. I take the motion of the community C3 forum to mean that the regional district is keen to move forward and have meetings of the C3. One of the points raised during discussion was we're not going to sort out what the mechanics of common law are, or create protocols, or negotiate the way these things can happen if we don't have some meetings to talk about that. So the idea is we've reinforced that we're going to be following our rules within the charter, and we're keen to get meeting, and let's do this. So that's what I took from that motion. We need to talk about things in order to sort out how we're going to do things, and so we need to start somewhere. Here at the city, we have a new CAO, and maybe we have not got things on our docket quite as quickly, but I'm sure we'll get there. Thank you.
Great. We have now item 10, bylaws. 10.1 is the draft bylaw 2728, the permissive tax exemption. Slid up.
We'll move the draft permissive tax exemption bylaw 2728 2023 be read a first, second, and third time. And staff give notice in accordance with Community Charter section 277. I note these are divided into a number of separate motions. I think give people opportunity.
Councillor O'Neill.
Just a small note, Councillor Dowd said section 277, it's actually just 227.
Seven two eight. Where are we? 2728.
Use section
227.
Is that this one for me?
Conflict of interest.
If
Yeah.
it's,
You declaring a conflict of interest?
I think so. I'm a little bit behind, but if it has to do with the curling club, then I am.
Can I call a point of order, perhaps, before you do that?
Ask the corporate officer to inquire as to what you are thinking, and then he will give his opinion.
So my question is, if we're going to have any discussion or debate that encompasses all of them together, like that aren't specific to a certain organization, but the way that they are all worded, is it possible to have any of that discussion before we get into individual bylaws, or did those get taken up with each agenda item?
Suggestion.
Sorry, first, for clarity, was there a seconder? I didn't see a seconder. Just curious if there's a motion on the floor. No, Councillor Dump made a motion.
Do we have a seconder?
No, I'm not asking. What I'm saying is it makes a difference.
Right.
Because right now, there is no seconder. So then it would be a question, if there's no seconder, then you could turn it to Councillor Isaacson to express what she's talking about, more of a comprehensive discussion.
Okay.
If there is a seconder, of course, then you're right into the bylaw itself. So there's a.
Okay, so right now there is not a seconder. So.
Made a motion, there's no seconder, so I'll defer to the chair and see what we do next.
So you have Councillor Isaacson.
So I wanted to offer something to the group, and I'll take it how,
Chair,
This point of order.
point of order.
Yes.
There is no motion on the floor right now. There's nothing to discuss.
So as the chair, you decide whether or not Councillor Isaacson is able to state a preamble, or whether you insist that there should be a motion on the floor.
We're going to say that we should have a motion on the floor, and if seconded, then we'll have a discussion.
Second it.
It's the motion, Your Worship.
Motion is put forward by Councillor Doubt.
Yeah, it's recommendation in 10.1 in the package. Permissive tax exemption bylaw 272820.
Second, Your Worship. Okay, then the bylaw is now on the floor.
And just-
Declare conflict.
Okay, that's what I was just asking. We have a conflict. Would you please remove yourself?
So I'm first letting people know the reason I'm declaring conflict because the permissive tax exemption under consideration at this time involves the Community Curling Club, which I am a member, and a company that I have ownership in sponsors that and puts signage on the walls. And so I usually declare conflict to make sure the public doesn't think there's a link there. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other conflicts of interest to be? Yes. Sorry. I thought your hand was up, but you were holding the pole. Thank you. Great. We have a motion. We have a seconder. Do we have any discussion? Yes, Councillor Isaacson.
Thank you, Mayor. Once the results of our last meeting came public, concerns were raised by some of the 5 who aren't listed in the permissive tax exemptions in the 4 here. And so I wanted to discuss with council if there was appetite to shift these draft bylaws to instead, right now, the draft bylaw that we're currently discussing is for a 97, specific wording, 97% being exempt from taxation. And last year, the exemptions were 86% across the board. And so I was wondering if we put it to 87%, we're still not shocking the smaller nonprofits. And then there might be space to reserve some of that $400,000 cap to address some of the concerns raised by the 5 organizations who don't necessarily receive provincial funding or are constricted in ways that we didn't really consider when we discussed this item for the first time. And so I reached out to staff, and I received the suggestion that if, there's 2 ways to go forward with this. One would be to refer this back to staff, to bring it back to us with updated bylaws, including any bylaws that might incorporate the 5 applicants that were not included in the items tonight. Or we could pass amended versions of what we have on the floor tonight, but they wouldn't address the final 5. So given what's on anyways, so I have an amendment to offer. And my amendment is to, anyways, actually, before I do the amendment, I wanted to throw that out to the room. And this is why I wanted to have a discussion, because we did receive feedback from the public. And this is part of the process. We put out our intentions and we get some feedback,
Great.
and we've received some feedback. So I wanted to throw that out there to see if there's appetite from council to discuss.
Do any councillors have a conflict of interest with any of the 5 organizations that were excluded? Yes, Councillor Doubt.
We're just trying to figure out. Got one counselor who's not in the room. Got another counselor who's suggesting that we should take a group of people. Advantage.
Okay, I'm just going to interrupt.
Yeah.
Do you have a conflict of interest with any of the 5?
No.
Thank you. Okay. Then I'm going to ask our corporate officer to address Councillor Doubt's, is this an acceptable motion to have with one of our counselors out of the room.
Oh, certainly, Your Worship. I think it's still related to the motion that's on the floor, which Councillor Elliott has already declared a conflict on. So continuing this conversation with this motion is germane.
Great, we have, yes, Councillor Almeida.
Thank you, Worship. I'd be curious in relation to Councillor Isaacson's comments. Can we deal with the bylaws that are on the table in front of us today on the agenda and still have enough time within the budgetary process to come back to that at a future meeting to discuss the 5 in question, or is it too complex? I just feel like we're going to get too complex to try to figure it out today, all up to in its entirety.
Your Worship, the nature of the questions are more at a higher level. So what you could do is table this current motion. So you put a pause button on it, and then you do have Councillor Elliott come back, and then you have the discussion about process for all the bylaws and all the other aspects. And I'd be happy to answer the question now, but I'm wondering if you do want to table this, bring Councillor Elliott back.
Okay, one question for clarification. Is there a precedent for a council member to raise the suggestion that a motion which was passed by council be discussed at this point in the implementation of that?
Certainly, Your Worship, it's proper. It was a committee recommendation, and the direction was that staff return to council with bylaws that were in relation to option 1. So to explore that continued now is yes, it's a proper.
No.
There is a percentage. These bylaws, all of them, have been separated because different people might have a conflict of interest. They all say we'll be granting 97% of the requested funding. Not because council had a debate about whether it should be 85 or 97, 3 or 102%. It was arrived at by a formula, and it was arrived at by a formula. Council created a policy to put a cap, number of dollars that would be expended on permissive tax exemptions. How it was arrived at is you had some $500 and some thousand worth of applications. Went through the list as a body. We agreed on options placed before council. Could have divided all of the applicants, and it was all, not some of them, somewhere around 85%, or to exclude 5 for reasons that were part of the debate. And having excluded those 5, all of that 400, just slightly less than $400,000 was divided equally among all of the applicants. That arrived at 97%. So I think it would be, unfair to everybody, frankly, go through these and say, well, these ones will get 97%, but another couple will get 82%, might get 100%. I think that's a very complicated process to go through, and there's different ways to address it. We'll spend some time on it already at different meetings where we could have made a decision not to do that.
Okay,
so that's my point of view. I would prefer to adopt these as they are before us, as they can arrive at.
Mr. Jackson, we have a motion which has been seconded. And we had a amended motion. Not yet. Okay, could you ask Councillor Elliott to come in? We will vote on the motion that's on the floor.
Your Worship, so the motion on the floor is the bylaw in which she has a conflict of interest. So she can't come back unless you were to table it.
All right, so I would like to We have a motion which has been seconded. All in favor?
Your Worship, I would really like to speak to this motion. before we vote on it.
Okay, I'm sorry.
And I think I saw Councillor Palms.
Councillor Southcott.
I respect where Councillor Isaacson is coming from. I had difficulty with the feedback that we received after our committee discussed work that was brought to us by staff. During that committee meeting, we had wholesome discussion. There were very valid brought forth, and we agreed on a policy direction. Notwithstanding that, I still have problems with our fundamental policy, which is policy 261. And staff has received direction, if I'm not wrong, work on that policy. So it is not perfect. And yes, some people who I would like to see receive consideration perhaps may not be receiving consideration relative to others who are. But we did discuss that. We came to the decision to refer what we came to council, and I support the work that we did back then, notwithstanding my own reservations. So I do not support amending our process, and I would like to see us carry through with these resolutions that are before us tonight. That's my comment. Thank you.
Councillor Palm.
Thank you, through Chair. Thank you, Your Worship. I couldn't probably have said it any better than Councillor Southcott. I was not here during the discussion when this took place, but I'm very well aware of the outcome and the reasons why. I am comfortable where council has come to on the recommendations. However, there's one thing that is missing. When we, in the past, broke these items down into various categories for conflict purposes, when they were read out, when the councillor had left the room, we made sure to mention to the public who the people were receiving the tax exemption. That's one of the pieces in this process that I think is missing at this moment, because people sitting in the gallery or at home don't know the organizations we're talking about. I would like to make sure that that's part of the discussion going forward tonight, so everybody's well aware.
Mr. Jackson, you have the ability to list the organizations that are covered under 10.1 Draft Bylaw 728.
Yes, Your Worship, in the agenda package under the report itself, there's a list. Well, mine's digital, so I don't know what page. So 2728 has Powell River Curling Club. And then you want me to continue?
Well, I'm wondering if it could be put on the screen,
on the screen.
so
Sorry,
that the
Your Worship.
people at home and in the audience can see them.
Mayor. One further rationale, I appreciate the comments from the other councillors about due process. I think when we had our discussion at the Committee of the Whole, there hadn't been an opportunity to engage those who would be impacted by our decision. So we didn't have community engagement on this unless somebody was, you know, closely following the agendas when they come out. They wouldn't have necessarily known this might impact them. And the communication to impacted groups is going to happen soon, like it'll go in the newspapers. And I'm generally of the opinion that early engagement's better so that when things do come to council like they are tonight, those decisions can be made and we feel really confident in them. But I'm not confident in this decision because those who are most impacted haven't had an opportunity to provide much input. And if the reason that we go through committee of the whole and then first, second, third reading and then adoption is to be able to have second thought and community input and for things not to be a foregone conclusion. And so the will may not be here, but I would like to actually propose an amendment to this draft bylaw that the 97% be changed to 86%, which is what it was last year.
Do not see a seconder. Without before we vote. Motion. Do you have any additional? No. We have a motion, it's been seconded, all in favor? Opposed? Great. We invite Councillor Elliott back in and we move to 10.2, which is draft bylaw 2729. Does anybody have a conflict of interest with regard to this draft bylaw? Sir Elliott, do you have a conflict with regard to draft bylaw 2729?
Nope.
Great. Somebody like to motion? Thank you, Councillor Doubt.
Draft permissive tax exemption bylaw 729 2023. Second and third time that staff give notice in accordance with section 227. Second.
So please list it.
So the affected organizations would be the Governing Council of the Salvation Army in Canada, British Columbia Division, Detroit State, Owl Lake Congregation of the Jehovah's Witness, 446 Manson Avenue, Seventh-day Adventist Church, BC Conference, Manson Avenue, a Adventist Church, BC Conference, also on Manson Avenue, Westview Baptist Church, Inc., Joyce Avenue, Pentecostal Assemblies of Canada, Manson Avenue, Westview United Church, Manson Avenue, Catholic Independent Schools of Vancouver Archdiocese on Glacier Street, Sikh Society, Guru Arjan Dev Sikh Society of Fall River on Quadra Avenue, Church of Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saints in Canada on Courtney Street, and the Synod of the Diocese of New Westminster, 610 Sycamore Street.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Isaacs.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm going to make the same amendment, and if there's a seconder, I can explain it while Councillor Doubt is in the room. I would like to amend this motion so that the bylaw be updated from 97% to 86%. Sorry, 97% to 86%. Yeah, there's a seconder I can explain.
Okay, I see no seconder. Now to the motion, which has been seconded. All in favor? To item 10.3, draft bylaw 2730. And do we have anybody declaring a conflict of interest? Councillor Doubt.
Move that draft permissive tax exemption bylaw 730 2023 be ready first, second. Staff give notice in accordance with Community Charter, section 2722.
For the motion, thank you, Councillor Southcott.
The individuals, individual organizations that are affected by this bylaw are the Tla'amin Nation and leased by the Alano Club of Fowl River, Peters Avenue, Carlson Community Club on Joyce Avenue, Cranberry Community Home Association on Life Cycle Housing Society on Cranberry Street, Cycle Housing Society on Ontario Avenue, Nature Trust of British Columbia on Park Avenue, Nature Trust of British Columbia. Fall River Academy of Music on Camano Street, Fall River Bonnequille Society, Fall River Brain Injury Society, Fall River East to the qathet Art Council, Timberlane Fine Arts Association, Duster Hall Society, Timberlane Barracks Sponsor Committee, Entertainment Company Limited, leased by the qathet Film Society, run by the qathet Film Society on Marine Avenue, or Off-Broadway Theater Company Society on Timberlane Avenue, Fall River Villa Soccer Club on Timberlane Avenue, Museum and Archives Society on Marine Avenue, again, another one on the qathet Museum and Archives Society on Fall River Italian Community Club on Lund Street, Fall River Lawn Bowling Club, Fall River McClat Recovery House Society, so Rugby Football Club on Church Street, Fall River Search and Rescue Society on Drake Street, Fall River Sunset Home Society on Westview Avenue, River Sunset Home Society on Westview Avenue, Fall River Sunset Home Society on Joyce, Royal Canadian Legion, Branch 164 on Alexander Street, Senior Citizens Association of BC on Cranberry Street, Convention Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals on Street, Assumption Archdiocese of Vancouver, Roman Catholic Church of the Assumption Archdiocese of Vancouver, Source Club Society Inc., Berlin Place, CNB Enterprises Limited, based to Tourism Fall River on Joyce Avenue, Townside Heritage Society of Fall River on Walnut Street, Westview Flying Club on Duncan Street. And finally, on this long one, the Fall River Sport and Fitness Society on Joyce Avenue.
Thank you. Mr. Jackson, as a member of the Fall River Senior Association, should I excuse myself?
Are you a member, your worship, or a board director?
A member.
A member, my understanding is that would not qualify directly as a conflict of interest.
Thank you very much. We have a motion, which has been seconded. Any discussion? Yes, Councillor Elliott.
So I'm just wondering about the folio GG that indicates it's vacant land and why we would be considering a permissive tax exemption for vacant land.
Through the chair, Mallory, answer this first, please.
Hi, through the chair. Let me pull up my notes here. Which property were you referencing, Councillor?
The Roman Catholic Church of the Assumption Archdiocese of Vancouver, 0 Alberta Avenue, vacant land. It's listed as GG on the, draft
Yes.
bylaw.
So this is up to council here. How it works with churches is the building and the land under the building are statutorily exempt through the community charter. And then all that's left to consider for exemption is their ancillary properties, such as parking lots or vacant land. And so the churches tend to have smaller values because we're just looking at that external property. The policy does require that any property, say related to a church that hosts a residence. So example, if a priest lived on a property of the church's property, that would not be included. So those residences are specifically excluded. But to your point, it is just the parking lot and the vacant land for the churches that is left to be considered for permissive tax exemptions because the other property is statutorily exempt.
Your worship, just a quick follow-up. So, CFO Ms. Denniston, I had thought that we had discussed the concept of not covering vacant land through permissive tax exemptions as part of our policy. Was I wrong in that? Or is that upcoming as part of our new? Through the chair, that isn't currently in the policy. It may have been something discussed with Mr. Langenmeyer before my time. Certainly something that council could consider for this round of bylaws or for the next through the changes in the policy. So I would leave that to council to decide when they would like to use that lens or apply that criteria. I'd like to amend and strike those two properties from this bylaw simply because the very limited resources we have going to community purposes, I don't think are well served in supporting vacant lands in our community that is crying out for housing, and we have a high need for those dollars. I didn't realize we were having vacant land as part of this package until I noticed it just now.
I would ask our CFO if that would be consistent with any obligations the city has made are consistent with the treatment provided elsewhere. Through the chair, I can't speak to treatment elsewhere from other municipalities without digging into the data. It would certainly be within legislation, and it is completely council's purview. Permissive tax exemptions are voluntary, and the requirement is to follow the community charter, which it is within the community charter to not exempt these or to exempt these properties. So this is completely up to council's decision. Councilor Southcott.
Thank you, Your Worship. I noticed in so policy 260.
A second.
Know what we're debating.
Thank you.
We're debating.
Yes,
the
understood.
motion on Draft bylaw.
Yep. We have a proposed amendment. We have a secondary. Councilor Southcott has seconded.
Your Worship, that'd be an improper motion. What the motion is not amending your motion. The motion is amending the bylaw. So it'd be improper. In order to move forward with that,
You have to defeat.
that's correct. You have to defeat the bylaw, then bring it back as a reconsideration, and then amend it, and then move forward again.
Did somebody second so that we have the motion on the floor to speak to? Is that correct?
The motion on the floor is to give first, second, third reading to bylaw 2730 as it's submitted in the agenda.
So I'd just like to say that since we're in this process tonight, made that decision previously to go ahead in this regard. deal with Councillor Elliott's proposed change at a later date.
We have a motion which is seconded on the floor. See no further discussion, all in favor?
Which motion are we dealing with here?
Mr. Jackson, would you lead the motion that we're dealing with?
Bishop, the motion on the floor is that permissive tax exemption bylaw 2730 2023 be read a first, second, and third time, and that staff give notice in accordance with Community Charter Section 227.
Thank you. All in favor of the motion? Opposed? Great, passed.
2 opposed, Your Worship.
Opposed. Now move to item 10.4, draft bylaw 2734, permissive tax.
Okay. I will declare a conflict here. While I'm not a member of the leadership of the Foursquare Gospel Church, I am a member, and just decided to declare conflict, so I will step out before you read the next bylaw.
Please vote.
To move that, on the right one, the draft permissive tax exemption bylaw 2734-2023 be read a first, second, and third time, and that staff give notice in accordance with Community Charter 277. Seconder,
Secondary Councillor Southcott.
beneficiary of this would be Foursquare Gospel Church.
Any discussion on the motion? Yes. Yes. All in favor? Opposed? Okay. Right, Councillor Almeida back in. To 10.5, draft bylaw 2731, a sewer parcel tax. Bylaw to establish a frontage tax and changes for a sewage collection system.
Really got everybody to be mad at today.
Thank you.
But the draft sewer collector system bylaw 2731 2023 be read at first, second, and
Seconded by Councillor Elliott. Any discussion?
been discussed before at committee of the whole meeting, and basically sets church collector system fees for
Really?
So when we had this discussion and the report that is on the agenda, it showed options, and council has put forward an option that they thought was a good balance between softening the increases to get to where we need to be, but does put some of the burden of the costs of the system, which are higher than the fees we're charging at this time through these fee charges, onto the tax roll. So the balance is the costs have to get covered. If they're not covered by the fee system, because we didn't want to put the fees up right away, all the way up to what to cover the costs, we then would have to put the balance of that into our tax roll. So I just wanted the public to understand what the decision was that we made going forward was this happy medium where we were.
Thank you. We have a motion, second, all in favor? Yes. Now to 10 point.
second one in 10.5.
Yes.
10.5 has two items. The first one was the sewer
Right.
collector system bylaw, which we just dealt with. The second one is a motion that draft sewage treatment and disposal system bylaw to 2732 2023 2732 20. Read it first, second, and third.
seconded by Councillor Almeida.
This is basically the charges for the property owners for sewage treatment local system. And again, as Councillor Almeida pointed out this time, we'll have a discussion on how to deal with these funds. Midway, reduce the impact. They'll be able to cover the cost.
We have a motion, seconded. In favor? Unanimous. You'd like to continue with
Oh, why not? So far. Draft sanitary sewer system user rates bylaw 2733 2023 be read at first, second, third time.
Southcott.
I just want to point out that there are different charges and different services to make sure people are actually using aspect of it. Paying for that. So you need to have pipes going along your property or paying for pipes to go by. Sewage disposal, which is the wastewater treatment center, different costs. Other parts of the system, the user fees are for
We have a motion on the floor, which has been seconded. All in favor? Passed unanimously. We'll now move to new business, item 12.1. The Committee of the Whole. This is, Mr. Jackson, is it?
Well, this might be spearheaded by me, so if you don't mind, Your Worship.
Yes.
When we drafted our meeting agenda last year, or calendar of meetings last year, I saw October 31st on the schedule of events, and I said to Mr. Jackson at that time that I thought that was a strange day to meet, regardless of your beliefs of who you are. Halloween might not necessarily be a family event, but we've actually considered it on our calendar of observances here that we all look at our table. And I think across the community, whether it's trick or treating or other community family related events, there's a lot of celebrations that are happening in the community. And it would just seem like a shame for a handful of us to be meeting here. We've got a revised schedule of meetings that I think we can safely skip over Halloween, enjoy that in the community, and actually be a part of the community at that time and continue on the 2nd with our regular schedule of events.
Second, that if it's a motion.
Sure, I move that.
Mayor, I was going to object to that because I really wanted to come dressed up in a costume, but I've been thinking about it while you spoke, and I think, oh.
I'd just like to add what Councillor Dowd said, that I had a week prepared too. Yeah, we can forego that. So we have a motion on the floor, which has been seconded. All in favor?
Oh, I just was gonna speak.
Sorry.
I just had something to say about the.
Yes,
I wanted to thank Councillor Almeida for noticing that and bringing these forward. I would have had to skip the meeting at any rate because I have children who trick or treat on that day. And I would not have been able to make Committee of the Whole on Halloween, and I don't think I would ever be able to make a meeting on Halloween. So, thanks so much for bringing that forward.
We will now call the motion. All in favor? Passed unanimously. Okay. Yes, 13.1. This is Councillor Dowd.
Make a notice of motion that won't be voted on or debated tonight, but it will come forward. And recommendation is the council establish a harbor users advisory committee. Purpose will be to advise council on concerns and issues regarding the north, south, and west view harbors. And we direct staff to collaborate with Councilor Southcott and any others who council wants to name. Create a draft terms of reference, including any application procedure, the Harbor Users Advisory Committee be approved by council. That the committee be comprised of users of the North, South, Westview Harbors, city staff, limited number of councillors. That the above terms of reference be presented to council at or before the December 7th council meeting. Supporting information will be provided on that meeting. Yeah, no.
Tom?
Your worship, I support the recommendation. I see that the two members of council have watercraft that they access in our harbors, and I have one as well, so I wouldn't mind having my name added to this list.
If nobody objects, we'll add Councillor Fong.
And I noted that Councillor Doubt had, after South Scott's name, that there could be other councillors. So Councillor Elliott, we added two.
Actually, I would love to be on that committee, but I'm all committed out. I feel like I have more things on my plate and I don't need to be on that, but I am super happy to see it come forward in the notice of motion. I think Councillor Palm will make a great addition to that team. I also, have a family that's vested in keeping voters happy. So it's probably best I not be on the committee, but thank you so much, Councillor Stout and South Scott, for bringing it.
On the 19th, on October 19th, there will be two Ts.
Mr. Jackson, how do we proceed from here?
It's an information item Councillor Doubt brought forward, so it'll appear on the October 19th council meeting as an item for your decision.
Very much. Now, do you have any questions? Let's see.
Thank you, Your Worship, for the opportunity. I don't have any questions this evening.
Do you have any questions from large audience this evening? Questions from the audience? Do we have any questions online?
No callers, Your Worship.
In that case,
I will.
Worship, Mr. Jackson, I think you're going to tell us that we just
In a different motion.
different.
Maybe, I can't predict it, Your Worship, but I think that there may be a motion that Councillor Isaacson wants to bring forward. That's including everything that may be discussed in camera.
Also, I was going to say, what's on here and the motion that we read at this special one earlier, also maybe are in the.
So Your Worship, the reason why this one appears is because that was the original, that was to match the original closed meeting. However, given Tuesday's closed meeting, we had to modify the motion so that it was for the special meeting only. And we didn't want to have to republish and confuse everybody with a new open meeting agenda, even though I'm happy to say that now. However, that wouldn't apply given what council knows is on the closed meeting agenda.
So is there another motion we should be reading out?
Did I email?
Oh, I haven't checked my,
Perhaps one.
I don't check my email during meetings, so,
I was trying to
yeah, thank you.
think what it could be,
Just
so I
tell us
said
what it
it.
is so we can read.
I can read it to you.
Yes, please, please do.
Jackson.
That's a lot. Okay. That following the adjournment of this meeting, council move into a closed meeting to discuss matters covered by the community charter under section 91 sub C, labor relations or other employee relations. E, the acquisition, disposition, expropriation of land or improvements, if the council considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm their interests, the municipality. G, litigation or potential litigation affecting the municipality. J, information that is prohibited or information that, if it were presented in a document, would be prohibited from disclosure under section 21 of the Freedom of Information Protection of Privacy Act. N, the consideration of whether a council meeting should be closed under a provision of subsection of this subsection or subsection 2, and section 92 sub B, the consideration of information received and held in confidence relating to negotiations between the municipality and a provincial government or the federal government, both, or between a provincial government, the federal government, or both, and a third party. So that's what could be considered, Your Worship.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Do
Make
we,
that motion.
we have a motion? Do we have a seconder? Do you have any discussion on the motion? Then call the motion. All in favor? That's unanimously. Okay, seconded. All in favor of the motion? Passed unanimously. Good.
You have to keep Valerie.